Guys, it's Kelly here, and I am back with a video for Create a Smile. Today we're going to be using the sentiment from Wrap It Up, some snowflakes from Winter Fun, the Whimsical Wheel set, and then the Santa from the Snow Dance stamp set. So let me tell you right now, this is a longer video, and this card is a labor of love. There's a lot going on. It was very time consuming, but it was just one of those ones that I had an idea for, and it just had to be made. It just had to be. So I'm laying down some lines here, some guidelines for my stamping. And the whole idea behind this was creating a scene for a Christmas parade, kind of like the Macy's Day Parade that they do here in the U.S. And so I wanted Santa to be popping out from the fire truck, and then in that little parade, they usually have police cars and ambulances, and so that was just the whole idea. And I thought these whimsical wheels would create that scene nicely. Not to mention, this particular set is being retired from Create a Smile, so this was kind of like our last hurrah together. The ambulance in this particular set is facing the wrong way. For the rest of the vehicles are facing to the left, this one faces to the right. So I'm using the mirror stamping technique, and I'm stamping it on acetate, and then using the acetate to stamp it down onto my project so that everything is facing the same way. Then after I get it down there, I'll just go ahead and outline it with a Copic safe pen so that I can color it and nobody will know the difference, that it wasn't facing the right way to begin with. So after I got this, basically what I did was I laid it all out on a like prop piece of paper, and just did some planning, and I decided that the sky was a little too blank, so I wanted to do some distress inking. I also wanted these vehicles to be dressed up for Christmas, so what you see me doing here is actually drawing on some Christmas lights onto the windows of the ambulance and the fire truck, as well as where that, I don't even know what you would call that, the rack where that opens on the side. I drew some there too. So I wanted to have a little bit of a sky, and I didn't mask the whole thing because I knew I wasn't going down very far. The only thing I had to mask was the Santa, because I wasn't sure where my buildings were going to be, and if any part of them would be below, if any part of the skyline would be like below him. So I used the lots of new distressing colors, and the first one was Carved Pumpkin. This is Picked Raspberry, and then Wilted Violet, which I'm not even a purple person, and I love this color like so much. I'm also giving my mini ink blending tools another go round, and I'm still not getting as good of coverage as I would like. I do believe it is because they are new and there's not as much ink on them. So after I did get my colors down the first time, this is Blueprint Sketch I'm using, and then the last color I'll use is just a little bit of Chipped Sapphire. Once I got those down, I went in reverse then. From the Chipped Sapphire, I went back through the Blueprint Sketch, the Wilted Violet, the Picked Raspberry, and the Carved Pumpkin, just because I wanted the sky to be a bit more vivid. There's lots of grays in this card, and I really felt like I needed to do what I could to bring in some color. So now that the sky is done, I'm going to go ahead and lift up that Santa mask, and he's all clean and pretty. And then I wanted, like I said, I was thinking like Macy's Day Parade. So I wanted some buildings, houses, something in the background, some sort of skyline. So I'm just using my T-square ruler to draw myself a couple of little guidelines for the buildings in the back. And then I started to draw lines across the top, and then I was like, that's dumb. I'll just do little triangles, little triangle roofs. And then, so I started off with the, this is funny. I started off with the warm grays because I knew that I wanted to use the cool grays for my blacks. And these markers need to be re-inked, and I do have the re-inker for some of them, but not for all of them. So I started off with the lightest W color, which was W1, and I was just trying to get good saturation. And then I very quickly realized that this just wasn't going to work, because when I did the W3, which you'll see here, I'm like trying to scribble it on, and it is so dry. And W3 is one that I don't have a re-inker for, so on the list of things to do, right? So I decided to switch over to the C's because I use my C's more than, probably any other colors in my arsenal, so I do have all the re-inkers for these. So basically, I just started off by using my lightest color, which was C3, and just laying down a base coat of that on pretty much all of the buildings. Then from there, I started making decisions about what building was going to be forward, what building was going to be backward, because when you color, especially things like this that are just kind of like nondescript in the background, whatever is darker is really going to fall to the back. And it's kind of important because you don't want it to look flat. So it's important that you have some buildings that fall into the back versus, being more highlighted into the front. Now, I will be honest with you, when I did this, the reason that I did the ink blending first is because I thought my Copic coloring would cover it up. It didn't cover it as well as I thought that it would, but I guess it didn't bother me enough to start again. So I just kind of accepted that it was kind of going to have an orangish pink hue on the top, and then I just moved on with the rest of the card. So I'm starting, like I said, to build up that shading with my C5, C7, C9. Those are, the darker colors. And another thing that you can do is, you don't have to shade the complete bottom, like maybe where that building in the middle is to the left. You can shade just that side and leave the other side a little more highlighted. So there's a couple of, different ways that you could color them. But here I'm just basically trying to get them covered. Like I said, I didn't realize that orange and pink would show through so much. But later on, we're going to add some detail, which will help kind of break that up. So once we got all that done, then we're actually going to start doing some Copic coloring on the actual images. If you follow my blog or have come to Periscope or anything, then you probably know that I work for a local police department. So there was no way this card of this parade was getting done without a cop car. Not that we usually use, sports roadsters, but it was going to have to do for what I needed. The only difference, or the only thing I added to it was a little bubble on top, just like the ambulance had, for their lights. And originally I had toyed with the idea of maybe doing a luminescent light with the Copics for the police car, for the ambulance, and for the Christmas lights. But it didn't end up working out that way. I just felt like there was so much going on that would just be like one more thing. And I already had, I guess, a little bit of difficulty feeling like it was going to make sense. So I colored the ambulance white. In my city, the ambulances are red, but I didn't want it to be red and red, so I went with white, which is what the private ambulances are around here. And then I basically, since my grays were out, I went to town coloring all of the things that would be gray. And just to give that metal portion of it a little bit of dimension, I added some shading below the lines. And then the same thing with this ladder, I did darker shading on the outside and did the highlight in the middle. The wheels, the reason I colored them this way, this is C3 is my lightest color, and then I added shading to them about a little more than halfway down with the C5, and then the darkest shading was up under the wheel wells for two reasons. Obviously, the wheel wells would cast shadows. It would be darker underneath there, but then also because they're going to be driving in snow. My original intention was to do a 2-lane street, which is why you saw me draw those pencil lines to begin with. But then once I realized that I was going to have to do the C's in the background, I didn't think that was going to happen, so I was just going to make it all snow. Here I'm taking my zero marker and trying to clean up some of those edges, and I wanted to I wasn't going to black outline these, but then I felt like it needed it, and while I was waiting for that zero marker to dry, I figured I might as well get it done. Now what was I saying? Don't remember. But anyway, so now we're under the Copic coloring. And anything, I'm coloring them, his beard, his trim, on his jacket and hat white. And anytime you're coloring anything white, you want to just draw in the shadows portion of it. And then for his hat and his suit, I am using my favorite red combination. It's also the same thing that I'll use for the fire truck. And this just, I feel like, gives me a really good blend, gives me a true red color. For his jacket, I just picked one side or the other that was going to lay underneath it. And I think I forgot to show it, but I do eventually use my white gel pen to add in some buttons on his coat, just as another little detail. And I'm only putting my darkest color where it would be the quote-unquote underneath, because I want the piece that's going to be on top to have a little bit of a highlight so that there is a delineation between the two. I just don't want them to be all one solid color. So once I have that done, I'm just going to move directly onto the fire truck, since that's going to be red as well. And then you'll see me like kind of popping over and hitting the lights for the ambulance and the police car, as well as their tail lights. So I just did pretty much a full coat of red on the base, which is my lightest color. And then I just did, general shading. I wasn't using a light source. I wasn't, trying to depict any kind of shadows. I just colored it so that there would be multiple layers of color. I did add some, I guess, my darker shading underneath where those lights would be, and more toward the bottom of the vehicle, because I feel like when you look at a car, that's what's darker. But maybe it depends on your light source. I don't know. That's just what I thought in my head, so that's what I did. So really, I mean, the Copic coloring on this was not very complicated whatsoever. It was more just building up the whole scene and putting everything together. And like I said before, I know that this is a longer video, but I struggle with what to cut out and what to leave in, because I want you to see how I got from A to B, in case you want to do it yourself. So now that that is all done and colored up, I'm going to go back and do Santa's skin tone. I'm lazy when it comes to getting my markers out, so like if they're already out, normally I would do the skin tone first, but my C's were already out. So I did that, and then, I went to the reds, and because I had the reds out for Santa, I did the fire truck kind of thing. So this skin tone is the same one that I used. I did a create a smile video using Santa and some gifts. That wasn't that long ago, and it's the same skin tone that I used there, and I just added a little bit of blush to his cheeks. These are the colors I picked out for the actual Christmas lights. And I did not do any shading on them. I just hit them one time with whatever color it was I picked. And now here's where I decided that I'm not going to be doing the 2-lane road. It's just all going to be snow. And I hit a little bit of red that bled out. And it's, I'm sure most of you know, it's like impossible to clean up red, even with a colorless blender. But can't blame a girl for trying. So here I wanted to, since it was going to be snow that they were driving in, it would leave tracks. So I wanted to make sure those tracks were included. And I'm just using my gray marker. My gray markers, plural. I'm not being very careful about the edge, because if you live in a place that has snow, as I do, you would know that when you drive through it, it's not a perfect line. So I'm using a silver gel pen to write the word police on the side of the card, as well as add in just some accents to those tires and that ladder. And then here's the little detail that we're going to use. Again, this is not specifics. Like when you look at it, you're not going to be like, oh, that's a really detailed drawing, but it fills up the background. And then because that white is so bright, I'm going to go back in with some of my C markers and just kind of shade over them. Warning, they say that this will ruin your Copic marker nib. I have not had any problems, but if you try it at your own risk, because I have heard people say it will ruin your nibs. After that was done, I outlined everything, re-outlined all my images, cleaned up my edges, and I do this for all the images that I do. And then for here, if this wasn't fun enough, right? If there wasn't enough going on in this little scene, I wanted it to be snowing. So I used the two smallest snowflakes in the Winter Fun set, And then my embossing buddy bag, I used Versamark ink to stamp those snowflakes down. And then just went ahead and heat set it. And then I did the same thing with the second one, just so there was a little bit of variation, because these, I guess, these big fluffy snowflakes would be closer to you. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp the sentiment, and the card was kind of bowed from the heat embossing, so I taped it down just so I get my sentiment straight. And now I'm going to add in some other smaller snowflakes just with my white gel pen. And yeah, so then we're going to add some glitter. This is clear Wink of Stella, and I just added that to the Christmas lights and a little bit to the sky. And now I'm going to cover that up with some glossy accents. And that is basically the card for today. So, like I said, it's a labor of love. This one is kind of intensive and it takes a little time, but I was happy with the way that it came out. So I'm not sorry I did it. So thank you guys for hanging out with me, and I hope that you have a wonderful day. I'll catch you later. Bye.